Welcome to this year's Push Music Seminar panel discussion, a extension of the Rainbow Push Convention of panels that we are hosting. And I'm happy to be your moderator, Mary Datcher with Global Mixed Media Group. I have a distinguished panel of speakers who are going to share their expertise in the business of music. I want to start out with introducing Tu Clark, Senior VP of A&R at Def Jam Music Group. Next, Archie Davis, Senior VP of RCA Records, along with Six Course Media. And last but not least, Daryl Jones, entertainment attorney, who has been so instrumental in a great deal of careers coming up in film and music. So I want to kick it off with just really some great dialogue in terms of what we've been dealing with in this past year. And of course, last March, we got hit with the tsunami of tsunami viruses and brought everything to a halt. But over that course of the year, we've seen a lot of different changes, a lot of different things that have evolved out of the music and film business. And, you know, from the label perspective, and this can go towards Tu and Archie, what have you all seen in terms of how it's affected new music releases during this time that people had not been able to really enjoy live entertainment? How did that affect the flow of how labels were releasing new music?
For me, I think it actually helped the labels instead of hurt the labels. You know, the artists, it hurted them, of course, going on the road and making money and stuff like that. But far as just making sure that they stayed with content and was able, you know, to put out records, you know, to keep the, you know, the engagement of the fans, I think it was a plus.
Archie?
Yeah, I think for me at first it was a little tough, honestly, because a lot of artists were afraid and didn't really understand, like, what if I couldn't tour, like, what does consumption of my music even look like in this time period? But I think it also forced them and a lot of executives at the same time to get extremely creative with what those opportunities look like. And in essence, like, coming out of that, or semi coming out of that, potentially going back into that, I think like these multiple revenue streams and other opportunities that have been created are kind of what's keeping a lot of things afloat.
So you've heard in terms of Daryl, the response of the music continues to flow. It's all about the content. It's all about the continuity. What were the kind of deals that you all were making as, you know, representative on the legal side for some of your clients?
Actually, the deals didn't stop. I mean, they actually enhanced, which was a good thing. I did more recording deals, more publishing deals than I've ever done before. However, I did do a couple really huge catalog deals. Mm-hmm. And I think those happened because the artists were able to sit down and assess what they had in their catalog, find money that they didn't know they had, and they were able to put a value to it. And from there, we were able to sell it. So we did a lot of catalog deals and a lot of co-publishing deals and a lot of strategic partnerships, per se.
Now, you mentioned catalog. For those that don't understand that terminology, because this is a learning panel discussion, right? Okay. Explain the importance of catalog and how that has become really a revenue driver right now, and when it comes to content expansion and provision, and how that really can set up a lifelong of revenue streams for that artist and that publisher.
Yeah, catalog is basically your body of work, whether it be music or content. Who owns the rights to that and who has the right to exploit that? So a catalog can be anything from one song to 100 songs. You know, the Beatles may have 100 songs, Michael Jackson may have 100 songs, but you may have somebody with one hit song that sustains him because it was a hit song for his career. So it's a body of work, and then it's a value that you put to that. You earn money every time that you exploit it. With streaming, we were able to enhance that because people are streaming old music now and new music. And so that adds a whole different value to the catalog.
And with catalog, do you feel that you are getting more artists that may not drop as many new music in terms of generational gaps a bit. So let's say that you have an artist who may have dropped something back in late 80s, early 90s, and they have not dropped anything new in between maybe 10-year gaps or so. Have they been resurging, and have that been able to bridge that generational gap for new artists that may be tapping into some of that old catalog for musical inspiration?
Absolutely. I mean, the new generation is sampling all of that old music. You know, all of that brings back relevance to the old catalog. So these kids are savvy. They go back and actually go stream and listen to that old music. And again, that adds value to the catalog that was once there, and it gives them an opportunity to either keep the catalog or sell it. But a lot of my older clients are selling at this point because they want to reap the benefits while they're still here. You know, for example, if you got something that's generating $1 million a year, that's fine. But if somebody's going to give you a multiple of 15 or 20 right now, and you can enjoy it, you know, why wouldn't you do that? So that's the state of the industry right now.
And speaking of which, too, not only are you our senior VP at Def Jam on the A&R side and working with artists and producers and scouting out new talent, you are known as a considerable producer yourself and have represented a great deal of artists and been, you know, up for Grammys, and you and your producer partner, Co-Sign, has really just hit and running, and now both of you all have taken various different lanes in the entertainment business, but now you wearing this executive hat. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Daryl had mentioned with young artists, finding different innovative ways of creating, and they're tapping into that catalog. What has been some of the things that you've seen even behind the board that has helped resurge a level of creativity in artists to keep them from sounding like the next?
That's a great question. I think a lot of artists, man, are tapping into the now, breaking the old method of what they used to, you know. So a lot of artists are just used to like, yo, I got a vibe, I got these writers right here, I got these producers right here, and this is what I'm rolling with, right? Now, man, everything is so now. You know, so you got all the younger acts, they got their homeboys producing, and on top of their homeboys producing, it don't even matter if you're Mary Datcher and you just sold 3 million records. They homeboy produced a record that came out last month. They got over 20 million views on YouTube, and this is my man. I don't care what you did. And then he put his record out, and what happens? It goes to the moon, just sitting in the basement. So the traditional way of like doing records and the traditional way of what artists are used to have totally changed. Everything is just totally changed.
Wow. You know, Archie, I was reading your very impressive roster of projects that you worked on, and I also noticed that you've really carved out a role within the commercial area in terms of producing various musics for some of our most interesting commercials, like including Wendy's, and trying, you know, just making sure that you expand your repertoire of production credits. And I've often found that people either have transitioned from that, or they're trying to expand from being on the musical side to more commercial and non-traditional areas of getting their music out. Can you kind of break down a little bit of that transition from doing the commercial side in branding and marketing with some of these agencies to now you're entrenched in a machine. You're entrenched at a label that's very iconic of some of the artists that they work with. What has been that transition for you, and how can you advise others to make sure that they still kind of keep that level of diversity when they are producing and creating?
That's an incredible question. I think for me, I started on the label side. So So seeing like and being able to be a part of campaigns from whether it be an A&R perspective or a marketing person perspective, or even in the case of Dom Kennedy, an independent kind of like owner/partner perspective, I kind of developed this like, I really got tired of like feeling like I was pitching my artists for things. And what it really came down to was just identifying a brand voice. And that's what I look at my artists as, and I try to create the businesses around them. And in a lot of instances, marketing is looked at as a business expense. And I honestly try to look at it as an ancillary income and the opportunities and the avenues that it can create. So from that came the opportunity and the idea just to do a Wendy's mixtape, understanding and watching the voice that they had created on Twitter, and also kind of flipping it on its head and being like, can we get people to actually buy an advertisement? Because regardless of what we think of as stream is, it's somebody that is generating income. So at the end of all of that, we actually donated the funds from that advertisement to the Dave Thomas Foundation for adoption. And it's like, it's these things for me that it's like, that wasn't a moneymaker play, but insert X artist voice into that situation, align that with a couple other plays, a potential tour, and you got a career. So a lot of it for me has been experiential and trying to find different ways to identify what I would call as like sonic branding. And that was just another avenue.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because experimental people don't understand that in itself brings value. And when you're cutting these type of deals, it's not, we have not seen a traditional label deal in really over a decade. We were trying to readjust to the 360 deal, and now it's kind of expanded out from that point on, where you see clients, Daryl, that is either transitioning from music into film, vice versa, or they're even becoming their own brand. So, explain to us, when you have clients, especially younger clients, who come in and they want you to oversee, typical label contracts, and what are the things that do stand out for you to advise them on, no, I don't think that that's the route to go, or maybe we can insert this clause in here, or maybe we can kind of keep more percentage of this, kind of break down a little bit. You ain't got to give me your industry secrets, right? But just, give me a typical scenario on what you would deem a bad contract and what you would deem a good contract.
A good contract is where it's truly a partnership. Mm-hmm. A partnership is not if somebody's taking 85% and giving you 15%. That's not a partnership. Both parties are not, nowadays it doesn't take a whole lot to create content. So back then it took a lot, they were the bank per se. But now these kids, as Stu mentioned, are making this music with their friends, and their expense for one song is probably under $2,500 to make. For a lot of these hits you hear on the radio, is made for $2,500. They shoot the video for $3,500. So if I'm going into a label with a complete project, I have to get a bigger lion's share of the profits. So that's a good deal to me. Mm-hmm. That if I'm bringing in something, I got skin in the game, all I need you to do is to market and distribute my project. Now we can discuss some of the ancillary, which is the 360 part of it, mm-hmm. which is anything outside of, monies that's sold for the product, such as touring, acting, or anything of that nature. And if you have some leverage, you can make it where that if they procure that on your behalf, they can share in it, mm-hmm. But if they're not doing any of that, they shouldn't share in it. So those are the kind of things that we try to negotiate and have them hold back, my clients hold back until they're able to get a favorable deal. With the internet, social media, YouTube, the game has changed. I have a lot of clients that make substantial money on YouTube. I'm talking, some of them make 20 grand a month and you don't even know them. but they have enough followers and enough views to sustain themselves. So why would you go to a label and give them 80% when you're making this kind of money every month? So if they're not ready to cut a substantial check and a substantial partnership, again, that goes to a bad deal.
Do you think that Chance the Rapper kind of laid a little bit of the blueprint out to remain an independent artist?
Absolutely. I thought it was brilliant what he did. You know, he didn't go to a record company, but he went to a brand. I mean, he went to Apple, who was the major distributor at the time, and cut a deal. You know, and they were able to do a partnership. Again, it's a true partnership, and I thought that was brilliant on his behalf.
Two, you are inside the beast of the belly, which I always call a major labels the beast of the belly, because they have consumed so much and they sometimes get a little greedy. And when I say greed in terms of them feeling like they have the first rights to be ahead of what the trends look like. And by you coming from more of an independent stance on the production side, and now that you are inside of that belly, and it needs to be fed. Every time somebody comes to show something new or something that you may have not realized could be done, we've often seen that major labels want to have that particular artist or that composer or songwriter or producer. What have been some of the challenges being part of a structured environment? Do they give you that leeway to go out there and, you know, choose who you think is going to be someone worthy of being part of their roster?
Man, that's a great, you got a two-sided, you know what I'm saying, question. So I'm going to go with, do they give you that leeway? No. Then I'm going to go to your first question. Do they even know? They don't even know. So the thing is, if you're outside and if you're in tune and see what's going on with the culture, you get to see things before it happens. Yeah. You know, so you can be like, yo, I know this about to be hot. In the next 2 months, this dude is like going crazy, right? And sometimes when you have them kind of conversations, they can't see it. You know what I'm saying? Because half of the game, well, more than half of the game is a numbers game. The game is a numbers game. So because it's that, and they don't really see those numbers, and it may not even be there, they be like, you know, we're gonna see. And it's like, yo, let's entertain this right now. So when these numbers do run up, we'll at least be in a race. And a lot of times they don't get that. And you miss out on something that you'd be like, I knew it, man. I was one of the first guys to sit down with this dude, man, and he took off. And a lot of times it's like that, man, because a lot of labels, you know, they don't look at it from like an indie standpoint. That's why you got so many artists staying independent. You got so many artists going, you know, saying indie, because like Daryl said, it doesn't take much nowadays to actually, from a budget standpoint, to really get things going. So, you know, the vision is very blurred.
Archie, give me an example of just really a conversation that you may have had with someone inside that you're trying to explain, you know, the importance of pushing a project beyond the first stage.
Oh man, just one? Like, I think that's where it's kind of like, that is, and again, like, it's interesting in this job because, like, working in a label system, you know what I'm saying, a lot of the times guys like myself too get looked at as the label guys, right? And I speak for myself, and I know too personally, and I think our jobs, and me specifically, I come from being a place of a servant, and there's a lot of walls that we gotta run through and conversations that we gotta translate that nobody will ever, and buses that we gotta get thrown under that nobody will ever understand the magnitude of, because that is the business of a corporation. But at the same time, I have, you know, in post George Floyd, a lot of this stuff has gotten really interesting in how executives ask you to explain yourself. And a lot of things, sometimes we're early on stuff, and there is a penalty for being early on an artist. it's like if you get in there too early and you build and you kind of give them the advice and the things that kind of help get it to a place, it's all out of a place of love. But then when you're in a situation where it's like, well, that may not be in line with the vision of the company, it's not yours. You don't own it. We don't own these corporations. And at the same time, the business part of that is you win some and you lose some. So, which is why the independent, making sure that we have our ventures and can have say and do oversee the budgets to where those budgets and stuff are spent and where we're able to allocate our resources are 1,000% important.
Well, let's address the elephant in the room. There have been so many instances in corporate America, because really people have to understand that major companies, and you hit it on the head, Archie, it's a business. And just because people are rolling through without any real dress codes or, the creative freedom to roam about, and as long as they're producing, they're fine, they're cool. But it's still a business. And, many executives encounter sometimes the culture of the business has become very one-sided in terms of who's making the decision higher up. And ever since the video release of George Floyd, the entire world witnessed what we've always known in our community, the brutality of how Black people are treated by law enforcement and even beyond. And we've also witnessed various major companies releasing these Black Lives Matter statements of how they support the movement. And some of them came from major labels, but yet they never address the side of making sure there's real, inclusion and diversity in senior level positions. And when I say senior level positions of authority and power. And we've often seen some of those positions be filled by those that are not from the community in which the music comes from. In other words, people that have taken over these positions of authority at labels that don't come from the community in which the artists come from and in which they have recruited from or scouted. So we know that recently some key labels have started their own urban task force, their own listening sessions among some of their Black and Latino executives. What have you seen with changes at your own company when it comes to being more sensitive to understanding the importance of what Black executives bring to the table?
I'm happy to kick it off.
Okay.
I'll say that I've noticed pre-COVID what we thought as leadership in some of these institutions has changed. And I think the roles of a lot of these executives have had to really evaluate what is the difference between being an executive and being a leader. I've seen and been able to call out a couple of those instances in my own situations. And it's not to say that I did that, but it's also for the growth and the awareness of, for the same reasons that we're talking about, the twos and myselves of the world have to have ventures and have to have some level of independence, because there's a certain level of the C-suite at these major corporations that it's almost looked at as like we can't handle. And a lot of that comes from the urban tag and being tagged as the person that oversees the Black stuff or the urban music, as opposed to overseeing all of these things, which now we've grown to see rap music is on the top 40 charts. That makes it pop. And really, starting to kind of, like we have our golden stars in the Ethiopias of the world, and John Platts and the Sylvia Rones, but even in the Mark Pitts, for example, and I'll also say it's we're taught to go be entrepreneurs so that we don't come for those jobs in a way. And it's a systemic thing that, like, I don't know the answer to. I've been kind of getting into it. Excuse the helicopter. I've been really getting into it in the Sony system. And I'll say an example of, it wasn't them allowing me to do the Judas project. It was them understanding the weight of the necessity of doing a project like Judas and the Black Messiah and being behind that and not trying to be the big branded company that's part of that, but also the contributions that are undisclosed and I'm not allowed to speak about that they've made to the Hampton House and the family and the movement. So I think it's making sure that, like, they're understanding and talking to people like us who aren't validated by the jobs we do, but by the people that we are. And there's a lot of people in these situations that are holding jobs just to keep a seat, and those aren't leaders.
Good points. You come from the Chicagoland area, and you've been very, very instrumental in even helping some of the growth of certain Chicago artists. How important is mentoring?
Mentoring is everything. You know, this is something for me to change my life when I went out to LA. And it's crazy that you say, growing up in Chicago, we taught to be aggressive. We taught to have a certain mind state. So I remember when I moved out to LA and, you know, being out there, I still had it on me. But when I was looking around in the rooms I was in, I was just like, man, how can I talk to these people? How can I even get to their level of understanding? So Troy Carter at the time, you know, was our manager, him and Vincent Herbert. And Troy, you know, always tried to get me to read and just give me different words of affirmation and inspiration and stuff like that. And I used to deny him, you know what I mean? I'm from, man, I ain't gotta do that, man. I'm just trying to get this money. I gotta get this money. And, you know, I woke up one day and as I call feeding myself, I started to feed myself. You know what I'm saying? And when I changed my mind, I totally changed my life. I had a different outlook, a different, you know what I'm saying? You know, like foresight on how to move. And I just think, you know, like when you have got people in your life that can actually mentor you and see something greater within you than you see in yourself, man, it can just go to another place. So I totally believe in mentorship, like for real. And like, you know, a lot of people don't like to say, well, that's my mentor. But it's like the way it's set up and the way things can happen for you not to even know could be incredible. So I definitely totally believe in that.
Daryl, you've seen a lot of artists come and go. And just like Tu said, sometimes we have this chip on our shoulders a little bit. You know, we roam around and think that somebody's, you know, gonna get us, or there's this level of distrust even when you're working with certain clients. Sometimes they can be in their own way. You know, what has been the downfall for artists that don't take in what Tu just said, that don't open up or allow people to mentor them or advise them properly to prevent some of the hiccups that we've seen a lot of artists go through over the years?
Simply put, those doors get closed. Mm-hmm. You know, people, there's a stigma that gets out there that he's hard to work with, he's hard to deal with, and that funnels all the way up from the ground all the way to the record labels, that people hear about you and they don't want to deal with you. So like to, I'm very into mentoring, especially artists, but as well as attorneys, because, you know, that's one of the things. There's not a lot of competent entertainment attorneys in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's I can probably count them on my hand who are competent to do it. So it's about educating and mentoring the next phase of attorneys on how to do this and how to protect artists and their
what
brands.
I've heard over the years is that it's easier to get an attorney that is of a different background than most Black artists, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, some of these attorneys are already in their own peer circles of deal making. And we've seen, only a handful of attorneys like yourself really maintain what you all have done over, the last 30 years. But I hear the same names that pop up. What has been the discord of young Black attorneys coming up in entertainment to have them kind of lean towards sports and not so much towards multimedia and entertainment law?
I think it goes to competency again. I mean, a lot of people think because you're an attorney and you should be able to read a contract. But in this business, in the entertainment business, there's different provisions and different things that you have to know, and people are not going to deal with you if you do a bad deal. So a couple people out here did bad deals, and that kind of put a stigma on it, that they didn't know what they were doing. But you have to get to a place where you're educated, you know what you're doing, and then it'll get to a point like now I get calls or referrals from the labels, from their business and affairs division. If you're in the Midwest or wherever, you need to call Daryl Jones. So you have to get it to that level and teach the young people that they can do that, because sports is even harder than actually entertainment. With sports, it's a whole different game. With sports, you have to have a whole different bag to deal with sports. So that's a different story.
Yeah.
I've dealt on that side before as well. So that's a hurdle, a huge hurdle.
Now, as we're winding down this conversation, and I wanted to touch upon, and I want each of you all to kind of chime in. We've seen recently more artists, whether they're in sports, whether they're in entertainment, admit that they've gone through, a lot of tribulations in terms of their mental wellness and being. And we also understand that the pressures of that, not only in front of the camera, on the mic, but also in the behind the scenes role. We've lost some really good, credible colleagues over the years, including Chris Lighty, that have succumbed to the pressures of the business. And I just kind of want to go around to just, if you can share what creates that level of work-life balance for you all, to kind of keep you focused on not being really succumbing to some of the pressure that's there to perform or to yield results. And I want to start with you, Daryl, since you kind of kicked it off with sports.
As we was talking about earlier, both me and two, my kids, I'm a bleacher dad. So on the weekends, you'll find me on a track, a basketball court, or a football field. I enjoy that. That relieves the stress of the week, and that allows me to understand what I'm doing, what I need to do for. So I may have a bad week, but when I go there, I can face the next week because I know that I have to do better for them. So for me, it's my children.
Two.
I definitely second that, with D. It's my kids, just looking at them grow up, get into the things they want to get into, And then two, I have to say, people think because you're living your dream, you live in life. And I told myself, I gotta live my life, My dream is something that happened for me, but it's not my life. So I had to tell myself that, because that's all I was doing 24/7 was locked in my dream. So now I'm on the other side of living my life while working my dream.
Absolutely. And Archie, expecting Dad to be?
Yeah. So, my perspective is changing by the day. And, I lost two of the men in my life that were my dad and my grandfather, this year. So that transition into being a father and just, time and understanding that, I'm afforded, and it's a privilege to do what I'm able to do every day, and I'm blessed with that. But it's what I do with it that really matters, and that's what keeps me centered, is my family, and not taking myself too serious. I play video games, play basketball with my friends, but if I'm looking at it and I'm competing in a sense of it's a job for me, I'm I need to chill, and that's where I kind of have been able to check myself. Where it's wait, man, it's supposed to be fun, And even in works instances, I've been allowed to do that with myself. So that it's helped 1000%.
So I want to cut it to what you found to be the next big thing in music, and without giving away any of your inside industry secrets as to what you're working on behind the velvet curtain. If you can share what we should be looking out for as far as the next hottest artists and producers. Two, you're always in the lab.
Yeah, man. I have to say, for me, man, the next hottest thing is everything that's outside of music, with music wrapped around it. You know what I'm saying? I think right now, man,
So
film.
culturally.
Yeah, I think film is hot right now. You know what I'm saying? And people able to create their own little shows and things like that, man. For me, that's the next.
Have you all been working, and I say you all as far as a label, have we been working on any particular soundtracks? Because we have not seen a lot other than Judas and the Black Messiah in terms of that soundtrack, and we have not seen as much promotion when it comes to putting that together, especially for films that really push the culture, or even television shows that push the culture. Has that been on your radar, and has the label taken a stance on being more involved with that side of music production?
Archie could speak, but I can only speak on my end, you know what I'm saying, with our label. It's not, as a label, you don't really get a chance to say, oh, I want to do this. You throw what you do, you throw your name in the hat, and then they see if they want to rock with you or not. And a lot of times they want to see, like, all right, well, what's the roster and who they can actually have on the soundtrack. And a lot of it is relationships too, you know? You may know somebody within, you know, the circles, and they be like, yo, okay, we're going to give them a chance. But for us, we've been coming up short on that end, totally.
Because there used to be a time, right, Daryl, where people were competing with being a part of different movie soundtracks. I mean, you have some of the best prolific soundtracks out there between Waiting to Exhale, Juice, all these key, iconic movies that we have grown up on always had a good, solid soundtrack. So, Archie, what was the motivator for making sure that you all had a solid soundtrack for this movie, and the importance and the message of what that movie conveyed? And do you feel that RCA is maybe considering to dip a little bit more further into that lane?
Yeah, I want to answer your first question about the licensing and the more music in those projects, because all of these labels have sync teams, and if there are any jobs that any young Black people are looking to get into sync licensing and music licensing, and learn admin and publishing and help these artists get their splits together. Because a lot of the times in these situations, traditionally, that game has been very white. And a lot of those people that are doing those syncs for those TV shows and for those networks talk to their friends. Yeah. And what Two didn't say is when they put your name in the hat, it's like a size 8 New Era, big ass hat that, like, you might not even get to the bottom of it. And even in the format and the presentation of when you think about 50,000 records coming out every week and each label trying to pitch, what is the format of how they're even pitching your music? Like, they might not even open that email. So, like, I think it's 1000% relationships. But to the second question, I think it's more so us on the music side getting into understanding we're in the content business. Music is a marketing driver at this point. There's music in all of these things. But what are we creating around them so that the music is the soundtrack for people's lives? And that's how we change. Like, that's why you love these soundtracks so much, is because they're tied to emotional moments that may have been in the movie or may have been happening happening at the time, and you remember where that artist was and when they took off. And I think it's been so tough to keep up with the amount of music that's dropping and just what a marketing plan even looks like for a movie for a streaming platform, in addition to an album for a streaming platform, that it's tough trying to find a happy medium. With Judas, I mean, it started as an education process. I came to Chicago and sat with Chairman Fred, GF, and Mama Akula, and really, really, really had no agenda. And I just wanted to learn. And we knew that there were certain things that we needed to hit. But it was also making sure that people understood that, like, yeah, we wanted to include the legacy and the bigger artists. But a lot of the kids on that soundtrack, Hers 23, Polo G, these are young kids. Chairman was assassinated at the age of 21. And the need to understand the youth in this movement at this time, whatever rage their songs may sound like to you, that emotion needs to be expressed and does need to be accounted for in our Black experience. And our goal was to merge that, simply put.
And that soundtrack, even with the next generation of artists that you all had placed on that soundtrack, you hit it on the head. The music was so in depth and in tune with what we were feeling back then. So you have this timeless element, and I think that's what good music is about, timelessness, making sure that you're in the moment and seeing beyond that. And I appreciate each and every panelist for joining us today. Daryl Jones, Tu Clark, Archie Davis. Beautiful shout out to Godfather and his team and the Rainbow Push Coalition family. My name is Mary Datcher, and I appreciate and God bless and keep safe. Thank you.
The Rainbow Push Coalition presents the Push Awards, honoring Archie Davis, Trailblazer Film and Music Award. Archie Davis. Archie Davis, SVP of Marketing and A&R at RCA, Executive Music Producer of the films Space Jam, A New Legacy, and Judas and the Black Messiah, and Executive Producer of Judas and the Black Messiah, the Inspired Album. Archie is also the CEO of Six Course Incorporated, a creative agency and production company. He also joined Proximity Media at its genesis to help build out its music, marketing, and audio aspects. Archie is an award-winning entertainment executive and created some of today's most prolific and celebrated campaigns for artists and brands. Notably, his campaign for Wendy's mixtape, We Beefin', has won several Cannes, Lions, and Clio awards. Prior, Archie was SVP of Urban Marketing at Interscope Records and oversaw campaigns for Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, Ray Shrimmer, Mike Will Made It, Rich the Kid, and the highly acclaimed Black Panther soundtrack. Archie co-founded the OPM Company alongside Dom Kennedy and sits on the board of advisors from Dreamhouse, a nonprofit dedicated to implementing the arts as both an educational tool and as a viable career path. Today, Archie Davis receives the Trailblazer Music and Film Awards 2021, the Push Awards.
First off, thanks for acknowledging me. Thanks to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push, Push Future, Godfather, and the music community of Chicago. It's been an honor, and I want to say thank you for your time.
Tu Clark, Innovator of the Decade Award. Tu Clark. Tu Clark is the SVP of A&R at Def Jam Records. Tu has worked with the likes of Big Sean, Justin Bieber, John Legend, Nicki Minaj, Rihanna, and many more. Tu has sold over 50 million records worldwide and is a 9-time Grammy Music nominee producer executive. Currently, Tu oversees very special projects in the urban and rhythmic world at Def Jam Recordings. Tuo was one of Billboard's 40 Under 40 top executives in 2017 and 2019 Billboard's in R&B and hip hop, and one of the Power 100 Players list. Tuo recently gained success with Tiana Taylor's The Album and Big Sean's Detroit 2. Today, Tuo Clark receives the Innovator of the Decade Award, 2021, the Push Awards.
Such an honor to receive this award. I'd like to give, all honors and thanks to God for allowing this to happen. Big shout out to Rainbow Push Coalition, Godfather, Reverend Jesse Jackson. This award is such a major thing. I'm happy to be here to receive it, man. Once again, God bless. Thank you.
Daryl Jones, Esquire, Icon Dealmaker Award. Daryl D. Jones. Daryl D. Jones, an entertainment attorney who has represented and counseled clients on a diverse range of agreements and transactions surrounding music, film, television, radio, new media, internet, literary, intellectual property, and sports. Daryl has negotiated contracts for multi-platinum and Grammy award-winning recording artists, songwriters, and producers. He has also structured and negotiated multi-million-dollar endorsement, sponsorship, licensing, brand partnership, and catalog deals for his clients. Finally, Daryl has been a guest lecturer at numerous seminars and conferences, as well as sits on the Board of Governors for the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, NARIS. His other professional affiliations include Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association, BESLA, Lawyers for the Creative Arts, LCA, and the American Bar Association, ABA. Today, Daryl D. Jones is presented with the iconic Dealmaker Award of 2021, the Push Awards.
It's such an honor to receive this award. I want to thank God. With him, all things are possible. I want to thank Jesse Jackson and the rest of the freedom fighters. And I also want to thank Rainbow Push Coalition, the Godfather, and also Mary Datcher. And again, this is an honor and a privilege. And I thank you guys for bestowing this on me today. Thank you.
Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., Chairman People Award. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., founder of the Black Panther Party Cubs, the son of Chairman Fred Hampton and Akua Njuri, who was 8 months pregnant when his father was assassinated in 1969. Chairman Fred Jr.'s organizing skills were evident as he mediated street tribe truces in Chicago long before they became media events. His speaking and writing abilities and his lineage have contributed to his earned respect on the streets, but are attacked by various state apparatus. An organizer non-perio, Chairman Fred Jr. has worked internationally, leading and supporting campaigns by utilizing spoken word and educating on the demand for the freedom of political prisoners and self-determination. Creating and launching the campaign to save the Hampton House, the Black Panther Party Cubs and the people are making the childhood home of his father a museum to give the true story of the Black Panther Party and defend that legacy. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. is the cultural consultant on the Oscar-winning film Judas and the Black Messiah, released in 2021. Today, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. receives the Chairman People Award 2021, Push Awards.
In the spirit of struggle, heads up, eyes open, and fists clenched. I'm Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. I'm honored and humbled to receive this award. Asada Shakur had said once how when people commented to her about what she has done for the struggle, and she said, no, what the struggle has done for me. So again, I just want to say a revolutionary appreciations. Again, I'm honored and humbled to serve the people, and I'm honored for this award.
Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw, Global Humanitarian Award. Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw. Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw is the senior pastor and founder and prelate of the Global Alliance Kingdom International Network Ministries, or GAKINM Alliance. Under the GAKINM Alliance, Apostle Dr. Outlaw has 556 churches all over the globe, Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw has received numerous awards for her hunger advocacy, literacy advocacy, and humanitarian work, recently including the 2020 Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and, in 2021, the Ecclesiastical Hierarchy Award, Humanities Award, and the Contribution to Society Award from the Women of Influence organization. Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw is an educator, curriculum writer, and curriculum developer, psalmist, Dean of Shekinah Glory Theological Seminary and Institute, and CEO. She is also the founder and senior pastor of the Daughters of Destiny Ministries and Daughters of Destiny Enterprises, and the Leadership Academy. Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw's hunger relief programs and services has fed on average 5,000 people on a monthly basis. This equates to 60,000 people per year. 5,000 people times 12 months. Today, Apostle Dr. Bridget C. Outlaw receives the Global Humanitarian Award 2021, the Push Awards.
Greetings and God bless you. Today is an amazing day. I want to thank God for all of his manifold blessings towards me. I want to thank the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Rainbow Push Coalition, the Push Awards, Godfather, and everyone that nominated me for the Global Humanitarian Award. I'm so super excited about what God is doing in my life. I'm so grateful to you, Reverend Jesse Jackson. You have always been a global icon in this city. I thank God for you. Thank you for this nomination. Blessings.
Janie Jennings, Lifetime Achievement Award. Janie Jennings. Miss Jennings celebrates 31 years committed to the development of independent record labels and artists through her focus on the administrative and logistical structure of a record label. Ms. Jennings has extensive experience in music retail, where she worked with Music Land Group, Suncoast Motion Picture Company, and Big Easy Distribution. She is the founder of Jabby, Just Another Bright Idea, which facilitates programs for independent record labels, and the founder of Industry Works, a company that provides services in publishing, management, distribution, and consulting to the independent music entrepreneur, where she signed a distribution deal with Universal's Federal Distribution. She has worked with many great artists, including Grammy-nominated producer Toxic and legendary Traxter during her career. Ms. Jennings is a co-producer of the Core DJs Retreats, and she partnered with 15-plus DJ coalitions to create the DJs United Conference, an annual conference that incorporates DJs, artists, labels, and executives that come together to network, educate, break records, and have a good time. Today, Janie Jennings receives the Lifetime Achievement Award 2021 Push Awards. This is the 55th Annual Convention, virtual, hosted by Mary Datcher.